This plan for you to do steroids.
Back to high school. Acne in high school. No? Nobody else had that problem? All right, I guess that was just me.
No, I didn't have. I'm actually pretty lucky.
New sponsor for the show, Accutane.
Yeah,
Don't take it if you're pregnant. It's all over the packaging.
Oh, we get a lot of shots. Everybody come to their net. We just have to get more and more pucks to their net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Get pucks on net.
Continue to put pucks on net.
Something about pucks on net and good things happen.
Pucks on net.
We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net.
Pucks on net and driving and making it a hard night on them.
Live on tape from Geeta's apartment, her palatial estate on the 23rd floor. This is Pucks.net, a Vancouver hockey podcast that doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats. On my way up to the 23rd floor today, I was speaking with an RMT in training.
Okay.
He was in the elevator. He lives on the 25th floor, but I don't think he's very good.
You didn't win the elevator contest today.
No, I didn't, but...
How did you find out he was an RMT? Like, how does that come up in casual conversation?
Well, it's funny you say that, Paul, because he walked in with his gigantic foldable white table, and I put two and two together, and I said, I bet you're a sex worker. And he said, no, RMT. My name is Ryan Chapp. I'll be your host for the evening. Joined to my immediate left is Geeta, and you brought up a very good point on social media, in person and on the internet today, that I have decorated your home with gifts that I've bought you from sporting events.
I haven't decorated my home with them. My apartment is just filled with toys from Ryan.
Now, what would be the next thing I could buy, like some sort of Buffalo Bills helmet or... You got anything?
Maybe Cleveland Browns. I hear they have very exciting helmets.
Okay, so...
I was thinking, I don't have like a Russell Wilson action figure.
Ooh.
And I see lots of shelves for it, so we'll listen, quit dropping hints.
I've got a Trevor Linden action figure somewhere in the house, but it's still in the packaging, and I realize I should probably just sell it, because...
Here's the thing about those
gift.
McFarlanes. There's about 1 billion of them, so you'll get about $8 for it.
Hot damn, that's more than I thought I'd get.
That's the voice
That's about a cup of coffee and a half.
Yeah, about that. That's the voice of P Mac on the street, back up in the palatial estate.
I haven't been called P Mac on the street in years.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, go get the wireless mic, and then we'll phone in. We'll make it work. Some sort of hotshot IFB. I want to thank you for joining us wherever you got us from. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksNetCa.
Did Geeta get an introduction? Geeta is also here.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
that's
I'm
why
not paying attention.
That's fair. None of us are.
This is the part of the show when Ryan talks to himself.
Yeah.
Just sorry.
I should
Continue.
have a mirror in front of me. And if you want to support the show monetarily, help us out with production costs and get some bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/pucksonnet, where you can pledge a couple of bucks. How much money, Geeta?
$2.
At least $5.
Oh, at least $5, and then Ryan will send you some stuff.
Well, the stuff you get
toys.
Yeah. Yeah, if you pledge enough money, all the stuff I've bought Geeta of all her random knickknacks might go in the mail. That's not going to happen, but it could. It's a couple of bucks over at patreon.com. We might have a bonus episode coming for you real soon there.
Your shirt looks really sharp. He's wearing a number 5 orange shirt right now. David Duchovny banned from that venue, if you've heard that. But I was thinking, with the big number 5, if we do another T-shirt design, it should be a Pucks on Net 5, some kind of number 5 orange themed Pucks on Net shirt. I feel like 5 years, number 5 orange.
You think they could sponsor it?
I don't know about the sponsorship. Them and Accutane, we could be making some serious money. I could use that right now. I'm only working part-time, Ryan.
SBA, I'm preaching to the choir.
Hey.
No, I'm working full-time.
Yeah, that's true. Geeta.
Well, you can show up when you can, and the rest of us will be on every day with that sweet, sweet Accutane money. A couple of bucks, $2 bills maybe. They can pay us in $2 bills from 1992.
Couple of bucks over at patreon.com. And P-Mac, you saw an exciting... who wears number 5 for the Philadelphia Flyers? I got to look that up. Ratko Gudas or something?
I love it when you throw these questions at me where I'm like...
Let's look this up.
I'm just really curious now.
I haven't bought an NHL video. That's how I used to know all the numbers when I'd play those NHL video games.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because I would play them enough that I knew everybody's number. Now I'm like, off the top of my head.
Well, everybody's wearing these NASCAR numbers, and they play for Montreal, and somebody's 91 and a quarter.
Yeah, bigger is better.
Mm-hmm.
98 is Puljujarvi winning right now.
With the highest number of them all?
He's wearing the highest number you can.
Nobody's wearing 5 for the Philadelphia Flyers, so I can't say that this strip club T-shirt is.
Samuel Moran
That doesn't sound accurate.
is wearing it right now.
Oh, okay. So this is my Samuel Moran T-shirt.
Prior to that, it was worn by Braden Coburn.
Yeah. Boy, what an all-star team we're leading off here.
Bruce's son, right?
The Flyers are in the playoffs right now. And we made a bet last week or the week before that the Flyers will meet the
Pittsburgh Penguins
in the first round, and Geeta thinks that they might overtake them. I don't think that's gonna happen.
But we have yet to settle on a bet, and it's not for money.
No, that's right. It's for some sort of weird
Toy.
More toys.
I feel like goaltending might be the difference in that series.
Well, because Pittsburgh has some. Philadelphia has
Never
none.
has any.
They haven't had goaltending, and I believe we are the 20th anniversary of the last time the Flyers had goaltending.
Who are you counting as their last goaltender?
Ron Hextall.
Sean Burke was in there. He had a good run, I think.
Boucher was okay.
Well, if we're going into the Bouchers, it's like Roman Chechmanek. He was pretty good for a little while.
I think that's how Brian Boucher's agent would sell him on the phone. Brian Boucher, he's okay. Hey, that rhymes. Can we use that? And everyone's like, Brian. Actually, Brian Boucher had, I think, the longest shutout streak. He got it with the Arizona Coyotes a while back.
Yeah.
Like in 2003 or something.
Oh, I don't think it was that far back, but...
Well, way back, yeah.
Yeah, a little ways back.
Speaking of goaltenders, you witnessed something at the matinee Canucks game on Saturday night. Yes, yesterday.
Afternoon. Yeah,
and
it threw me off.
And it wasn't the heaping amounts of brunch that was served to you in the press box.
They basically just gave me all the bacon and eggs they had.
I have this mental image in my head now of P Mac sitting at his perch in the 500 level, and he can't see the game because of this mound of scrambled. And he's got
3 different types of pork products they serve for breakfast: pulled pork, bacon, and sausage.
And you're eating your way through this. I'm going to see the second period. Mark my word. And
Thatcher Demko's down there somewhere.
He's through the eggs, I swear.
Yeah. So debut of Demko, and they got his family in town because I think when they called him up, what he said was Travis asked him how would you feel about starting, and he's like, "Of course I want to." Yeah. So. Travis,
what are you, stupid or something?
He said he was exhausted though, because he had to fly across the continent to get here in time.
7 hours. His family probably got here before he did.
Well, Demko's from back east. His family's from back east.
No, he's from San Diego.
Right? Yeah, stay classy. So that's a nice. They had a quick,
I saw
3-hour flight.
I saw the family downstairs after the game. I think they were talking to Nilsson or Markstrom, some tall-looking. I just saw from behind, and I saw the family talking to
Tall,
him.
blonde Swede.
And then
looked like it.
Thatcher's old man is meddling. He's like, I don't think you should be worried about living here next year, if you know what I'm saying. It's time for you to go, Nilsson or Markstrom, whichever it is. I think, Markstrom Nilsson was
Markstrom was backing up. Nilsson apparently is sick. So, I mean, it probably was Markstrom.
What kind of illness?
There kind of later.
He's sick of Vancouver and the losing.
He's allergic to rubber, and so
Jacob Markstrom's looked fantastic the last 2-3 weeks. Actually,
it's funny. Yeah, everybody.
Oh yeah, they're not even losing; they're winning.
No, they are winning a lot of games.
Yeah.
I think they won 4 in a row.
And this is half the Utica Comets. I was talking to my neighbors.
Yeah.
Over the fence.
No, at the game. The people that sit next to me at the game, over the pile of meat. And we're going, well, who's left in Utica right now? They just signed a goalie to a PTO because I think Gartag is injured right now. So Cole Castles is down there.
He's leading the charge.
They're bringing in Cole in. Why isn't anyone taking Cole in? He's going to Utica. But yeah, there aren't a lot of Canucks bodies. They're all up with the Canucks right now. So losing Demko.
Yeah, I just heard about. Yeah, Cole Lind is leaving tomorrow for Utica.
Yeah.
Is Kelowna? The Kelowna's in the playoffs, or they get eliminated?
Kelowna must be out if Colin's headed.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're paying a ton of attention to the Western League. And they also just got Jasic, one of the other prospects from Europe, just joined the Comets.
Yeah, he had a point or two in his debut too. So it's been an exciting time. But when I see photos or videos of the Canucks right now, and you see Darren Archibald, you see Goldobin, Thatcher Demko,
Boucher.
Boucher for sure, and Nick Dowd. He's still there, I think. But it's like, it is the Utica Comets.
You know who's been great that I feel hasn't been talked about enough? Ashton Sautner.
Yeah.
Not that he's been amazing, but I haven't really noticed him, and that's a good thing as a young defenseman coming into an NHL lineup. He hasn't made any big mistakes that really stand out to me. I mean, I'm sure he hasn't been perfect, but there's nothing really... And now someone's going to tweet me what about this play? And there'll be a gif of him totally blowing it.
There's going to be a gif of him standing on the puck and falling over, and then the goal going through Markstrom somehow.
To be fair, I wasn't working the Oilers game, and I was only watching bits while I was at a sports bar, so I didn't catch the Gaudette.
Question, when you were watching at the sports bar, was your view obstructed
by
a
pile of chicken wings? Yeah.
Just the bones.
we're down at Wild Wing in Surrey. If they want to sponsor us, come on down.
Acne and wings.
I've been there.
It's very kitschy.
If you saw Demko's dad, I always love. There's been a lot of good footage of hockey parents, and the Canucks had a 4-1 lead going into the third,
right?
And was it 3?
Well, no, after a bit in the third, they got to 4-1. Yeah.
But I think he was saying, was it 3 straight shots on goal went past him?
Mm-hmm.
It was very quick. If there were shots in between, there wasn't a whole lot. And Demko was laughing. Oh, talk about what impressed me most about Demko after the game, actually.
Yeah, totally.
I expected him to be we won, but I should have stopped those.
Punching holes through the wall like Carey Price.
He was taking responsibility I was exhausted, but that's no excuse. And the guys, there were good opportunities from the other side. But I'm just happy we got the win, and I'm excited. There was a very even keel. I know I can be better. It's good to get that initial sort of reading temperature on the NHL, so I know what to expect next time I come into a game. But he seemed like he was an old veteran, and it's his first NHL game.
He really
it was a 5-minute scrum. He was in there for way longer than most guys.
But you think this is an NCAA kid. He shouldn't really be used to this media training. He seems very.
Is he a communications major?
I mean, a lot of them are, so it's possible.
No, but it sounds like he was very realistic.
He seems like go on.
Well, no, only because he knew what he was coming into, win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure, but there's also no pressure.
Yeah.
And so he was very real, probably, in the answers that he gave.
And he strikes me as somebody that is self-aware and understands what he is capable of, and he's not just freaking out oh my god, National Hockey League. He just seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders.
But also, this isn't the point in time in this particular season to have any sort of meltdown or punch a wall or whatever. I mean, that's not to say somewhere down his career he's not going to behave that way. I mean, I'm sure he is going to get very upset one night.
Wall punchy, it happens to the best of the goalies.
But yesterday afternoon wasn't. I mean, the sun was shining in Vancouver. It was perfect.
He reminded me a lot of Corey Schneider just in the post game. Just his, and I don't know, coming from it is the NCAA, maybe not as much media, but there is a lot of pressure on that. That's one of the regions that pays the most attention to their NCAA hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a different type of development at NCAA where, in the Dub or in the Canadian Hockey League, it's like a junior version of the NHL where you're playing constantly. You have still local press.
You're a god in your little small town,
and it's super it could be super stressful and super and if you're in a W or a CHL team with a following and expectations like a London or a Kelowna, it can wear you down. So,
but if you're going to an American university, everybody else is paying attention to the basketball and football teams.
Yeah, they're oh, hockey, that's fun.
Yeah,
that's cheaper, and we can get drunk there maybe. I'm starting to think NCAA is very beneficial to goalies because we see so many cases of delicate, very delicate ego and mindsets, and the Roberto Luongo comes to mind, and it's just you don't have that pressure, and you can kind of get that confidence and learn what you're capable of, and just kind of, be safe and
your media training comes from talking to the school paper.
Yeah. Can you explain what hockey is? Certainly.
It's a good point, though, as far as goaltending in the NCAA, just because one of the knocks people put against the NCAA is you don't play as much hockey, and that can catch up. Even Brock Besser slowed down a little bit just before he got hurt. We've seen a lot of college guys sort of like it takes them a small amount of time to adjust to the NHL number of games, whereas if you're a goaltender and if you're a very good starting goaltender in the NCAA, you're starting all those games.
Yeah.
But that means you're starting like a half an NHL season. It's not that big a jump to come into the NHL.
Yeah.
And odds are a first-year goalie isn't going to be playing much more than maybe 40 games if he's, thrown the extreme.
Yeah.
That's sort of where he's at. So, yeah, for goaltending especially, it seems like a good climate to wade into the professional hockey waters with.
And one of the problems with the CHL is with the import draft, with their import picks or whatever. And this is the thing that Don Cherry always complains about is the Canadian goalies do not develop at that age properly in a starter role because they use one of their overagers or one of their import picks to get a goalie from Europe or the States so that they have a better chance of winning. And it just seems like the Canadian goaltenders are definitely stunted. Well, you have Carter Hart, but it's not a big trend right now, these Canadian goalies.
There's an argument to be made that, it might be more valuable to go to the BCHL where you're probably more likely to be able to steal a job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of go for a lot of overagers. I remember when I was doing BCHL hockey, they'd be bringing in 19 or 20-year-olds that couldn't make a team in Quebec or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
But more of a chance to get in, and then you're going the college route as well so that you can jump right in potentially and be starting. Maybe you're sitting as the backup the first year, but a little more opportunity there for some guys.
I think it's just the landscape is changing, and it wasn't just with Austin Matthews going to Europe. It's just there's more options. And then you look like when we were talking last week, we made the joke about all the studs that won the Hobie Baker Award.
Right.
And now in the last 10 years or so, these are all impactful, good NHLers. And it's the NCAA is a perfectly good place to learn to be a professional hockey player.
So at the Columbus game, I was also sitting around 4 scratches from the Columbus lineup who were all very young men. I didn't really recognize a lot of them.
Did you buy them beer?
No, but there was ice cream in the second intermission, and I tipped them off. I said, guys, there's free ice cream at the other end right now.
To fatten them up.
Just in case.
The Eastern Conference is very happy with you right now. You're gonna screw up their conditioning.
I don't know if they actually went and got some, but we thought, we should tell them, and I'm the youngest one up there, so they're like, you go tell them because it's less weird if you go talk to the prospects than if the old guys are like, you guys want some candy?
There's some ice cream available in the press box, but it's in the darker, quieter part. Not a lot of people over there,
Follow
so
me.
Stranger danger. Prospects. That's the thing they teach you the first day of being an NHL prospect. Don't get into a van with an old media member. Anyway, this got weird fast. Anyway, but I was sitting with them and they were talking about, they were watching Adam Gaudette. I noticed they were mentioning, I think one of them was a NCAA guy. I can't even think off the top of my head. They're all youngsters from the system. But talking about NCAA, Adam Gaudette also made his debut this week. I missed most of the first game.
Yeah.
But he was playing with Brendan Gauntz. Some people maybe were expecting bigger things.
Gauntz is back?
Well, he played that game, and then he was sitting in the Columbus game.
Gauntz is like wallpaper. I mean, I've actually been very busy this week moving, so all I wanted to do was watch the hockey. But
he looks like he's going to be a bottom. If he's an NHL, he's going to be a bottom 6 guy, and we probably shouldn't have much by way of expectations beyond that.
Right.
He could realistically turn into a Ryan Johnson, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Or a Manny Malhotra.
Well, Manny had a lot of offensive showings.
And speaking of Manny Malhotra, Thursday night was South Asian Appreciation.
I was really upset I didn't get to go to that, actually. I heard it was a really good time.
Really? Now, besides the intermission performances, you know what else there was?
What?
The anthem was performed. It was a
it was like
instrumental
a band,
version.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I think they had a sitar or something in the group, and I heard it was beautiful. I only caught a little clip afterwards. But yeah, they had events around the rink, and They had what's his name? Is it Robin Bawa? No, I'm trying to remember.
Oh,
it's before our time. That's the thing. Like
Oh, yeah.
I respect everything he did for the game, but he retired in the early '90s when I was really young.
And they
dropped the opening face-off, and yeah,
there is a.
Kara was in the BCHL when I was calling games in the BCHL
Who's
years
the
ago. So
there's
cool.
there's an Indo-Canadian on the Oilers. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Jujhar Kara, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
him. Yeah. So that's cool.
He used to play for Prince George in the BCHL.
Oh.
So yeah, I remember. Yeah, the Merritt Centennials, who I was covering, were playing them in the playoffs one of the years that I was there.
Yeah,
And he was very good then.
Yeah, he's helping those Oilers rack up those garbage time points, and he's looking good.
Yeah, but Adam Gaudette, I didn't see much of the Oilers game, but in the Columbus game, I thought he was really good. I thought that line looked, well, him and Virtanen especially, a lot of good chances. People might want stats out of him, but honestly,
We need stats.
they were one of the most exciting
Yeah.
lines to watch in that game on either side. And it looked like they're just, a little bit of practice away from finishing on some of these plays. And, if they can combine to become a third line for the Canucks next year,
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Well, people just need to remember that he was drafted in the 5th round, and he had a good college year, but he's, there's going to be time. It's going to take time to develop and learn the game.
He's looked better than I expected, I think.
What did you expect out of him to just kind of...
I don't know if I expected him to play poorly, but I didn't expect to maybe notice him that much. A lot of these NCAA guys sign on at the end of the year, and if they're not a super... I mean, I guess he is a super highly touted NCAA guy, the way that he ended.
Yeah.
But it's like overagers in the WHL. Like, you never know what you're really going to expect. When the Canucks signed Ashton Sautner, a lot of people were upset because he was, like, just graduated from the Oil Kings. Nobody drafted him. He was the captain and contributed, but he's a 20-year-old, and... what was the kid they signed that played with Connor McDavid? Fox.
What was it, Dylan Fox?
I'm totally blanking out on his
starts
name.
with a D, I think.
That's so. But we were so excited because he looked so good in the OHL.
Okay.
But he was a 21-year-old. He's an overage player.
Yeah.
Maxed out, like as old as you can get. You should be dominating a bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
That's the rule now. We should just make that an official rule. If you are playing in junior hockey and you're drafted...
Dane Fox. That was his name, yeah.
You should look incredible.
So I was kind of thinking, okay, he might be able to come in.
Yeah.
He'll be a player, but, will he be much better than Griffin Molino? Show some defensive stability, not a liability necessarily, but nothing amazing. But he got some really good... he set up Virtanen, I want to say. He set somebody up with a pass in the Columbus game that I was just like, that is a big league pass. Like, that's a better pass than I've seen out of half the guys in the Canucks roster all year.
Well, those are mostly comments, let's be honest.
So, I'm curious to see what he does in camp next year, and if they can combine to be a solid third line that gets some chances. That would be something. That would be a big step for the Canucks. If they keep the Sedins or have a second line somewhere?
What? I'm curious. Like, one thing I like about Thatcher Demko, ugly pads.
Okay.
I love those pads.
Oh, come on. He's got like 3 ugly lines going up the front of it.
Okay.
I thought they were sharp, and I saw multiple people tweeting the same thing. Like, he's had some interesting... He goes outside the box, but they're not, like, crazy weird.
Oh, I think they're ugly.
I gotta look these up.
Yeah, well, we'll have Geeta to weigh in on ugly.
Do you like the logo on the pads?
Are they Adidas?
No, I don't know who they are. Yeah, there's...
You said 3 stripes.
Well, you make a good point. I've been boxed into a corner here. I don't mind the logo.
I don't... See, I think that's ugly unless it's, like...
Actually, you know what? Fine. I actually do think it's ugly. I think it's a gimmick. And
Vertical stripes are very slimming.
so are you saying he's fat? Because Corey Schneider was fat when he got in the NHL.
He's kind of like the Sedins, though, or like Corey Schneider's a very thin man now.
Yes,
he was thin then too, but yeah, it was like he was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he looked like you don't think about it until you see how different they look when he became very health conscious and whatever. But when he started,
Yeah.
I don't think they were unhealthy though. Like
No,
some people just
Corey Schneider.
Yeah, in their early 20s, some people just take a while to like work off whatever baby fat you want to
He
call
had
it.
a lot of baby fat.
But not to mention, he probably didn't have like some sort of nutritional.
It wasn't hanging out with Gary Roberts and
Guide
eating
or-
flaxseed.
It's
5
both.
meals.
I'll say it's
like
both.
a nutrition guru.
You see that?
Meal planning for him.
You see that with a lot of like NHL guys though. When they get in, they're either like super scrawny or they look
Yeah.
a little chunky. And the Sedins now look so like skinny.
They look like how well,
But that just happens like to some people. If they stay in shape into their 30s, they thin
Yeah.
out even more.
How about Ryan
Some of
Miller?
us go the other direction. Yeah.
Are they thin or are they lean?
There you go.
I imagine they'd be lean. Like
Yeah.
Ryan Miller looks like 120 pounds when he's not in his gear. You remember that?
Yeah, but he's a pretty solid big guy.
Yeah. Do we see Thatcher Demko get any more starts?
It wouldn't surprise me, but technically, if Nielsen is actually injured and it's just a flu, it's an emergency call-up, and they would have to use their last call-up or what. I think they've only got one call-up they're allowed.
It's 4 games
left.
left.
not emergency.
Okay, well that's what I was gonna ask because the playoffs are what 11 days away.
Yeah,
or
the
something
Canucks
now.
are prepping for the playoffs there.
No, the
How many
playoffs
games
are
are left?
coming up like next weekend, essentially.
Yeah.
Next week, and so yeah, there can't be that many games left.
I say why not? It's like we're clearly in
Just
the
let him play the 4.
We've got this horrible team right now that keeps winning games.
My argument would
They're
be
gonna make the playoffs.
my argument would be you want to build up. In all odds, there's a good chance it could be him and Markstrom next year, and you want them battling for starts. Probably Markstrom's been great. Keep him going on this sort of momentum stage. Theoretically,
Poor
even if
Markstrom never gets a guaranteed job.
He never has had one. You're
no,
right.
he's had opportunities like this year, like
to take
it's
it
just
and run
now
with
that he's
it.
really grabbing hold. And I know they've gone with him most of the year, but now is the only time where we're going, maybe he could be something in the NHL.
Maybe he could be a great backup.
That's sort of what I'm getting from Mark. Like he could be a backup that's able to start 30 to 40 games.
Dan Kluche's like, I want you to start watching tape on Al Montoya or Peter Budaj. Just look at him how he opens the door and he's got the he's clocking shifts.
Here's
High
some
five.
Glenn Healy footage from 1994. Yeah, no.
You know who you should be looking up after? Peter Skudra, hell of a guy.
Not Martin
Johan
Brochu.
Hedberg.
Yeah.
Edberg was great.
Actually, yeah, but he was somebody that didn't have a guaranteed job either.
That was my fault. I fed him that pizza that one time. And then the ice cream to these Columbus kids. It's a bad habit.
Stop messing with their diets, Gary Roberts.
But yeah, the Comets are headed for the playoffs. I think you send Thatcher down there. He's been dragging them single-handedly in many ways into the playoffs. Let him settle into that. Get ready for that. Take them on a run. Worry about it. Maybe give him one more startup here. It's just so he can. He said in the postgame, one of the things that matters the most is just getting that game in to have that experience. And when he's sort of like mentally analyzing things when he goes home for the summer, remember how much harder it was getting across the crease. These guys are that much quicker with their passing and they're positionally better. He's got that flavor now that he can sort of feed off of in the summer in training. So let him have the AHL. Maybe give him another start here if you got him, but I wouldn't worry about holding him up for the whole thing.
I was just gonna ask, how old is he coming in?
He was drafted
Just in his third year of college, so he's probably 22 right
Oh,
now.
okay.
yeah.
Which still, he's coming in a mature player. He's not an 18-year-old.
One thing I really liked is another thing is you talk about the games faster and harder. The Columbus Blue Jackets are a playoff team. They're thirsty for points. Yeah, they put a backup in, but they're still home ice to be decided.
Their backup is also, a lot of people think, a better goalie prospect than Thatcher Demko.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So, it wasn't like they were throwing them, the Canucks, an easy win by any chance.
Mm-hmm. One thing I liked...
there are better goalie prospects out there than Thatcher Demko. This is the first time hearing of this.
Kevin Woodley, who's kind of the Vancouver goalie guru.
Yeah.
I was talking to him afterwards while we were waiting for Torts to come out.
Right.
And he said, he would rank Demko below, what's his name? Korpisalo? I'm totally blanking out on it's Finnish
Oh, him, yeah.
goalie for the guy that started for Columbus.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'd rank him higher, although he thinks psychologically his brief encounters with Thatcher Demko, that's what might put him ahead because he's one of these level-headed goalies like a Corey Schneider. Even go back to Kirk McLean. In his early days, people were surprised at how level-headed he was as a young goaltender and able to take on that kind of pressure from a very young age. And so that's where Thatcher may, that can mean a lot when you're jumping into the NHL.
Another goalie made his debut this week, or Thursday night last week. Scott Foster. He is an accountant. He's 36 years old.
A great goalie in beer league in Chicago.
He plays in two different leagues.
Really impressed because I'm afraid to talk to our accountants at work right now. It's the end of the fiscal year.
Yes, like this is the worst possible time to be an accountant. You are stressed out, and this guy, you get called up to play for the Blackhawks. He fills in at practice and stuff. Yeah, so he's in their system. But like he's such a beer leaguer. He had an
is he also a better prospect than Thatcher Demko?
Well, the Flyers might sign him to a PTO. I'm just saying.
They like what they saw in him.
That is some mental toughness. No, because I swear to God, I was afraid to go turn in an invoice this week because I'm like, how much trouble am I going to get into for interrupting someone?
It's the playoffs for accountants right now.
I think they're in the conference finals at least right now. He had such a beer league helmet too. He had an AC/DC goalie mask, and everybody's seen it. I would recommend if you can go watch the Jets feed because Ray Ferraro's down between the benches, and it's a TSN game. But just he's loving it because it's such a feel good story. And you look at all of the Chicago Blackhawks are having a miserable season, but they've done it all, but they're having the worst year. Nothing's going their way, and to have this kid have to go in, just like Chris Levesque almost went in, like they're loving it. And when they won 6-2, he played 14 minutes, he made 7 saves, and at the end they were piling on him like they just won the Stanley Cup. Like it is just beautiful.
They spotted him that 4-goal lead, but he didn't allow any goals.
Yeah.
The only thing that might have been better is if he did let in 4 goals and then they scored one more and he got the W on his record. That was what I was like, no, it's probably better not to let any goals in, but at the same time, he doesn't get the W because they had their third stringer starting the game.
If he let 4 goals in, the Flyers would have only signed him to a 2-way deal. And they need a 1-way. They need him on the bench in the playoffs.
Sorry, Mrazek, you're on the bench.
But this guy's playing beer league, and like you look at they look at all the shots, like he's taking these huge slappers from Buff and Laine, and like the Jets are a great team. Like they were like testing the shit out of him, and I just loved it. And there's a great photo of his men's league team at the rink, and they're all watching the TV, and like it's
like 7, 8, 9 saves or something for him. Like
7
it wasn't
saves.
an easy run,
and like good solid chances. So that really warmed my heart. And now Philadelphia is going to have a goalie for the playoffs, so that's the best
amazing.
part. This is a goalie-heavy episode right now.
Foster the people.
Dennis Potvin wasn't a goalie, but he had this quote on McDavid. McDavid is unbelievably unique. Connor McDavid has like 103 points right now. He's likely going to win the Art Ross.
Okay.
And on a non-playoff team, which isn't too easy to do.
Yeah, and I'd love to see the stats of how many goals he is a part of. Like we were talking about that last week. I mean, what, like 84% maybe?
Yeah.
That might be a little heavy, but probably not as far off as some people might guess.
Okay.
Here's Denis Potvin or Denny Pot. Is it Denny?
Denis Potvin, Denis Potvin.
Denis Potvin.
I believe. He played in the 70s and 80s, where the anglicizing names was a must.
Like he bear.
Patrick Roy. Well, Guy Herbert francophoned his name. He's
That's
American.
Right.
Yeah,
he's smart. He knew. That's why we love him up here in Canada.
Oui.
McDavid is unbelievably unique. I've never seen anything like it. That speed, the puck handling, whole package. You have to be pretty friggin' bad to have him on your team and not win. You've got to be very bad. I love Peter Chiarelli, and I hope Pete just goes, well, I have 18 players to trade this summer. It's terrible, and a lot of it has to do with commitment from players for whatever reason. To have a player like that and be that bad after being in the playoffs last year, if this was McDavid's first year, okay, 200-point seasons he's had. Like, he goes on to rant, but like, yeah.
And then I think he called McDavid a lowlife or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
If you're Peter Chiarelli in the offseason, what do you like? He has a history of panic moves. Mm-hmm. He needed to get a defenseman, so he trades Taylor Hall, who is likely the Devils Hart Trophy nomination.
Okay.
For that team.
Yeah.
You needed some bottom 6 center, so you trade Jordan Eberle, who goes and has a career year with Barzal and the other guy, who, as we learned in previous episodes, the Oilers gave him too. And you do all this stuff to give up. You need a defenseman, you get Griffin Reinhart. They panic all the time. So is this the year
they panic and trade McDavid?
Well, McDavid will go to the New York-based team in probably 4 years.
When he can sign as a free agent?
No, he's locked down long term, but they'll move him because he'll
go to the Kings.
Yeah, and I think we were saying,
for a big bag of cash, like Jimmy Carson.
Is this the year that you don't do anything because you had a good team last year? You should be good. There's something wrong, maybe in the dressing room, or do you blow it up again and try and rebuild around McDavid?
In the dressing room, or is there something wrong with management?
There's a lot of problems there.
They didn't disappear last year. Last year was an anomaly.
It should. I don't know about that.
Was it?
Well,
they've been this bad for a very long time.
There's a few things here I'd look at. First of all, with the trades, talking about the value coming in return, he was trading from a low value standpoint. We've talked about the Oilers stink, and as much shit as people are giving him about Taylor Hall.
Could he have hung on to all the people that he's traded and still be under the cap?
Well, he wouldn't have signed Lucic, so that probably wouldn't have been a positive.
There is addition by subtraction, theoretically. It sounded like they needed to clear out some personalities in the room, and there's that to take into account. Defensemen are generally overvalued relative to forwards, so a lot of those deals can end up looking bad no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those right now when I look at the team, I would be cautious just moving bodies for the sake of selling low on some guys that aren't playing to their potential right now. Because you'd end up with the same issue you've had in the past. Right now, I almost think they need to go into the summer and take whatever money they've got and forcefully pay, John Carlson or whoever the top-end defensive possibilities are there. And it could be enough to push them a totally different direction. We saw the Colorado Avalanche have a peak and then drop off a bit because they're so young. I think the Oilers could be a very similar team to what we've seen out of the Edmonton Oilers, where you don't want to give up on all those guys. They moved, what's his name, to Buffalo and Colorado. There were a couple of bigger names that
Ryan O'Reilly.
Ryan O'Reilly got moved to Buffalo. You do a little bit of that, but cautiously, because then you look back and Taylor Hall probably had to go. Did you have to get rid of Eberle?
Well, here's my argument. Aren't you able to scout your own talent in your own system and realize what you have in Taylor Hall and work within to have him, improve him and keep him?
Well, here's the thing. It goes right back to the question I originally asked. Is it the players or is it a problem with management?
I know that he wasn't having a very good couple of years and he might have had those expectations, but maybe you don't panic because he's worthless, because Peter Chiarelli also sort of did this with somebody named Tyler Seguin.
Because all these years of having shitty seasons and then picking number 1 overall only to trade them all away and then continue picking number 1 overall and continuing to have shitty seasons by getting rid of these players. You're perpetuating the cycle.
Yeah. And Hall's a weird one though, because there were the reports of the personality and maybe he needed to move on. I don't know if he'd be having the success. On one hand, he's with Connor McDavid. Theoretically, those two could be amazing together. But if he psychologically was bringing people around him down and was down himself, he may have been one of those guys that, turns into your, I'm trying to think, blown high Patrick Stefan type of guys. If he doesn't get moved to a place like New Jersey where he can flourish and have a fresh start. So it's one of those tough ones where you go, Taylor Hall I can understand. I just think now they've probably got a group, it sounds that like each other enough. Yeah. But there's a lot of holes in their lineup. The defense isn't strong enough theoretically.
They don't have a winger.
Some people don't like Cam Talbot, aren't sure that he's looked great, but he's still unproven in many ways. They might need to just bring in a different body just to mix things up. But you got to be careful on selling low on some of these values. I think if they've got any money, I haven't looked at it, to sign free agents. If you had a couple good defensemen to this lineup and everyone's a year older, as young as they are, next year they could be a Stanley Cup threat, theoretically. Like, they're a team that could
somebody
flip that
said
switch
that
like the
last
Colorado
year.
Avalanche. I didn't expect that much from the Oilers this year, if you go back. I thought they'd make the playoffs. I didn't think they'd be a threat for the Stanley Cup. But I see them as the type of team that could turn the corner very quickly, much like the Avalanche. They look amazing right now.
The Oilers have $11 million in cap space.
You do a lot with that. You bring in a couple of difference makers with that.
And some plugs will be being shipped out of there too. So there's some money to go around. I would, but if you, like you just said, they've sold low every year. And we got to get rid of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins now to really improve this team. Then, you have the exact same cycle. So I wouldn't do anything. I would bring guys in.
I wish they were selling real estate in Vancouver.
As weird as it is, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they would move like a Milan Lucic type of guy for someone that needs a fresh start. I mean, Dion Phaneuf is a good example of a guy that makes too much money for what he is. But if you need defense, and you're trading money that you've already spent on a forward who's, playing under expectations.
Do you want Dion Phaneuf? I know who your favorite hockey player in the world is, and he needed a change of scenery. But Dion Phaneuf seems to get a change of scenery every couple of years.
Where did Kurt McLean change of scenery? Where's Kurt McLean now? Anyway, I'm just saying. For example, why don't they? If they're going to move a guy whose value is low, they might want to just try one of those where you move another guy for two problems for each other.
I agree with Geeta. I'm sorry, but Dion Phaneuf needs to change the scenery. Oh, good. Toronto is going to be perfect for him. Ottawa is really going to flourish. And now he has this change of scenery where he doesn't have to do anything in LA. And if I was him, I would just ride that out, because if he's anything other than a 3 or a 4, 5, 6 defenseman that doesn't need to be a vocal leader, he's fine.
There you go.
But if you send him to Edmonton, that has all those problems,
people would put too much pressure on him. But
good Canadian guy, played in Red Deer. Let's put the C on him.
I'm more talking about if you're dumping some of these,
ripping it off McDavid. Great.
If you're dumping some of these guys that you may think you're paying too much for, and they've got a problem on D, why aren't you looking for that type of body coming back that you can fill out your D core, and then you're trying to maybe sign good defensemen through free agency, or difference maker defensemen,
something like that, but without the head case or the.
Dion Phaneuf was a bad example. Well, he's just a guy that makes more money than he should. If you're gonna have those, Edmonton could use them on D. If you're moving out some forwards that are doing that right now.
On to some positive things. The Vegas Golden Knights, they clinched the Pacific Division. They're enjoy your first round exit to Colorado. They are very annoying on social media. We all can agree on that.
Well, the dude's gone.
Oh, what happened?
He said he was moving on to something else.
He needed a change of scenery.
He was getting paid too much money.
But they did something really incredible.
Yes, they've done two things that I really like. The first one's very sweet. They've retired number 58 in honor of the 58 people who lost their lives in last year's mass shooting. And I didn't realize that the number had climbed to 58. That's heartbreaking. That's mortifying.
Nice for the team to recognize that.
Devastating, yeah.
And because I know this is a much more admirable reason. Like, Minnesota retired number 1 on the first game because the fans were number 1, and that was stupid.
Canucks retiring 7 a couple years ago,
and then hang on, we've reached it. We've thought of this out.
Jason Magna needed it this year.
And the other thing they've done is they've announced the Knights vow for season ticket holder buyers buying playoff tickets, and in short, they'll pay less for tickets but give up the right to resell them on like StubHub or wherever. Which I think is fantastic, because if there's one place that opposing fans want to fly to support the team, it's Vegas. And I like that because a few other teams, like I forget who it was, but when they would play like Chicago or something and they're in the Midwest and easy to travel to, they would, you could only buy tickets on Ticketmaster with a specific zip code or postal code.
Right.
So for this, it's a little more sensible, a little more admirable. I kind of like it a bit more. A little less
it's encouraging local buyers, and it's not doing something stupid like banning opposing team jerseys in the lower bowl
Tampa,
or whatever.
what?
Yeah. As much as I like that organization, that's still one of those things where I'm just like, thanks a lot, fascists.
Well, it's like they're having a show home, like they're having an open house. We'll put this here, and we'll put this Carolina Hurricanes jersey over here, up there behind this wall. That'll look great. Nobody will notice it.
Yep.
Tampa's also lost their spot as leader of the Atlantic Division, and the Red Hot Boston Bruins have taken it, and they have points in 8 straight games. I'm really starting to get terrified by the Boston Bruins.
They made some great additions then, didn't they?
Yes, and Rick Nash, who's a little banged up right now, they're so good he could return in a bottom 6 kind of role, and he's basically said, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
And so if you have the Boston Bruins in that Eastern Conference with Rick Nash in the bottom 6, like that's a lot of depth.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they'll do.
In the last 5 games, Brad Marchand has 3 goals, 6 assists. Patrice Bergeron, the top line, 2 goals, 4 assists, and Pasternak 4 goals and 3 assists. And it's they look fantastic. So that's that.
Is this a dangerous thing, though, for Jim Benning to see and go, well, Boston retooled, and it worked for them. I think we should just keep trying to retool.
Yeah, I agree. And he's like, well, I could have done that.
I pretty much did do that. I was there for a long time.
I traded Tyler Seguin. Everything worked out fine. They did go to the Stanley Cup final again, a year or 2 later, but still.
Yeah.
They're an example of, you'd probably call that a retool.
That is a retool in the fly. They had 1 or 2 bad seasons. They accumulated 3 or the back-to-back picks in the first round.
Right.
And people scoffed. Like, yeah, they could have taken Matt Barzal, but they took a handful of really good players.
Well, and they didn't move out all of their star top-end talent.
Yeah.
What was left of, the championship runs. And it seems to have worked right now. We'll see if it's a long-term solution. But yeah, I mean, they also had a different build than the Canucks, and the Canucks were trying to do a few different things within a few years after the 2011 stuff.
Well, like you look at that top line, and then you have Big Z who's coming back, and he re-signed.
Did you like that contract?
1 year?
It was 1 year. I believe it's $5 million, but there's a bunch of bonuses
Yeah.
that could kick in to bring it up to 7 or something.
Yeah, about 6.7. I was listening, and he was making 4 this year. So he had a big contract. It was the last year, the less money, and like all I keep hearing about is people talking about like what incredible shape he is, and what type of just like an absolute beast of a human he is, and he feels and looks. He's feeling great. He looks great. Like he could play, till Yager years if he
wants to.
Yeah, I'm all for this 1 year, every year deal. Like, it is great.
There was some Boston fan, and I mean, it's Twitter. Take it for what it is. There's a lot of people with
Wait a minute. Negativity on Twitter?
Negativity out of Boston, out of any NHL city. Everybody's got this. He's slowed down a bit. He's not the player he used to be.
Right.
So the money there, it's interesting, especially when we look at like the Sedin contract talk in Vancouver right now. It's one of those where it's like he's probably getting paid more than he should for what he contributes to the team, but it's a respect. He's the captain. He's still a contributor. I'm not saying he's a bad defenseman, but is he a $5 to $7 million a year defenseman? No, he's probably more of like a 3-4 second pairing guy right now who can be very good in limited minutes.
He's not holding anybody back. He's not slowing the team down. And if he's signing for like these smaller contracts, if it's a 4 or 5, and then he's, earning bonuses. It's not like the those long contracts that people are being given where they're backloaded.
Yeah, it's a short-term thing, so you're not worried about the long-term repercussions.
Because I feel like those contracts are worse, where you're at the like Luongo signed one, didn't he?
Yeah, or like Ryan Kessler is under contract in Anaheim till he's like 40.
Well, and that's the thing, and they're not contributing at that time at the quality that they should be, and you almost hate those contracts even worse.
Luongo's was signed when he was much younger, and it was before they had brought in some of these rules about when you retire that you still have to pay out the cap hits and stuff like that. So I mean, it's not exactly the same thing. The difference, I'd say, between Char and the Sedins, which is what I think is very comparable in conversation right now. The Boston Bruins are a team taking a swing at making some noise in the playoffs.
And the
Sedins are coming back to a team that if everything worked out perfectly, we saw at the beginning of this year, if no injuries are serious and everyone's playing at their max capacity, this is a team that could finish in a wild card spot. Next year will probably be the same for the Canucks, but there are no guarantees.
You also can't afford to let Zdeno Chara walk. And like Ottawa learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
He can still contribute, and he's a hell of a leader.
That's a totally different, though. Like, when he left Ottawa, letting him walk then would be a lot different than letting him walk now. Where you might regret it, but he's going to retire in a couple years anyway, in all likelihood.
He's a better...
The thing is, the Sedins are almost stuck here. And I don't mean that negatively, but Zdeno Chara this is his third team. It's not like he was loyal to one team. Like, if the Sedins were on a different team, we'd probably be talking about them differently. They'd be contributing differently to someone who was heading to the playoffs.
And here they're almost a burden, it seems like. We could take them.
Because we've been with them when they were bad and then got great. And now we're on the downward slope with them. Whereas, you could hide the flaws and the age if they were on a team where they were perfectly fine on the third or fourth line.
Yeah, you make a very good point.
There's still guys, though, as veterans, if they play them in limited minutes.
But they're on a bad team. They're on a very, very bad team. That are fantastic right now. They're a championship winning team.
Anyway, I didn't mean for this to turn into a Sedin conversation. The point I was sort of trying to get at is that contract could have repercussions on the Vancouver Canucks because Chara probably signed for more than he deserves based on. I mean, people complain about the Sedins being a liability and being slower. Relatively speaking, Zdeno Chara is probably exactly the same step back that the Sedins have taken, but he's had other guys step up around him.
Look at the team around him.
And there's more of a team around him that you're fine with it, whereas the Sedins, everybody's still casting the spotlight on them.
Yeah.
And it's probably unfair because they're still very good players. Yep. They're just not the players they were 7-8 years ago. And nobody is if you're that age.
And that's the point. I'm like, if the Sedins were playing on Tampa at this point in their career, we wouldn't be talking about them in the same way.
We would be marveling how good they are as a second power play unit and what good, sturdy leaders they are and how reliable they are.
Everyone's selling Dustin Brown's comeback season. He's like 5 years younger than them, and he's not as efficient as they are offensively. And everyone's like, Dustin Brown, worth $6 million a year. But the Sedins, no. But the contract for Chara could mean now the Sedins want $5 million a year or something like that from the Canucks, when they really should probably be more in the 4-3-5 range.
Yeah, I'll be very curious to see how much money they're going to get. I
think they will come back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. But if they can do 3, 5, or 4, the team, I still think the team needs them next year. There's nobody else that's ready to step up into that role. And I know there's the personality question, but they need another year to develop some of these guys into someone that can play second line minutes behind the Horvat line.
Do you know any idea, or if you have any impression of what the relationship is with the Sedins and Travis Green or Jim Benning?
There hasn't been enough time, and I'm not that close to it.
Just curious if you've noticed anything.
No, I mean, I've heard they're meeting with Jim Benning this week to discuss what's going to happen.
Hey, guys, Jimbo here.
And Travis seems to be really all about playing them in limited minutes, but giving them opportunities to succeed. And I mean, all along, Alain Vigneault was giving them all the offensive... all the chance to succeed offensively possible for years and years and years.
But they were younger.
But if I like when he's playing them 12, 15 minutes a night or whatever.
Daniel Sedin had the lowest amount of ice time again.
12 minutes.
12 minutes,
So, I mean, if you can keep that up, you're still some people just look at the minutes. It's the type of minutes they're getting. Yeah. If they're still, especially when Brock Besser's out there feeding him the puck on the power play, theoretically, they could still be big contributors, still be 50, 60-point guys next year. And if you're getting that for $4 million a year...
Well, have you seen... not a very good team next year, so I don't know if they get that many points.
The Canucks?
Yeah.
If Edmonton can turn it around.
It's a different story. But like I said, next year will be interesting because the way they started this year, they're better than they were starting this past year. We'll see what they do in the summer. And if they can bring in a new defenseman or two, that's going to be a big thing. But if they don't come back, I don't see the team being overly successful, like competing for a playoff
You
spot.
see them even better.
And a lot of people want them to be bad, get another high draft pick. But if they want these young players to aim for a wild card spot next year, you're bringing in that offense. So
They
it's
shouldn't
that
be
fine
competing.
line between you don't want the team to be too bad for too long. That's why I don't mind this win streak at the end. You don't want them going into the summer feeling like absolute garbage.
Yeah, that's good. It's fair. Plus, it's kind of fun watching them screw over, Anaheim. Play spoiler. It is kind of fun. And with I know you want to have the best possible chance, and there's an 18% odds at 31st, but like, it's tough. If it was a better odd at 31st, like it used to be, I'd be a little more.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we saw last year the winners for the top three. There's some outsiders that jump up there. So
Totally.
Speaking of the draft, there's a couple of questions from Twitter I want to get to before we wrap it up.
Okay.
Matthias Fallman, in the past 20 years, which player did the Canucks regret not taking the most in your minds? Keeping them at their draft positions and not assuming they have the first overall in any of the drafts. I think anybody drafted. I think the Jake Virtanen year is probably the hardest one to look at on paper when you see who they passed up to draft. I mean, Oilers. I think Pasternak was in there too.
Okay.
There's a lot. Like as the years go by, you look at that draft and Jake's he's developing, but not nearly as good as these players.
Right.
that one probably jumps out just because of how fresh it is. If we're going 20 years, I meant to flip through the last 20 years of drafts because it's basically you just go through and there's always going to be sleepers that are among the best players, heart winners in the NHL, and you just take whoever is the biggest contributor in the last 20 years and go, oh, it should have been him.
Well, here are some players drafted around Jake. Okay. William Nylander was drafted. Okay, Jake was taken 6th. 8th was Willie Nylander. 9th was Nikolai Ehlers, who's a 1-2 punch with Line A and Winnipeg and looks great. You have Dylan Larkin, who's the second fastest skater in the NHL behind McDavid. Mm-hmm. You could have drafted, you also have Robbie Fabry, who's with the Blues. Goldobin, I hear he's pretty good. And David Pasternak is somebody else. There's a lot of players of all those players. I think we'd rather have all of them than Jake Virtanen. Jake Virtanen, I'm saying that one's fresh in your memory, though. That's part of the reason why.
No, but there's a number of names out there. It's not that I didn't see these questions in to look it up.
I'm pulling up, heart winners from the past number of years. It's how high did Corey Perry go? Some of these guys that weren't first overall, there's probably one in there.
That's one let's come back to this. Yeah. I think this is one that we could do a little research on. And this is a good question.
Yeah, bring it up next week and we'll do it then. Or we'll do it closer to the draft.
Yeah. Ryan, Coach Ryan 82 goes, if we end up at 4, Darlene, Svechnikov, Zadina are gone, do you draft the other Kachuk? At 4,
I wanted Kachuk, and so did you, based on his Twitter handle.
Yeah, this is the Canucks have passed on 2 generations of Kachuk. They could have taken Keith in the 90s, and they said no. They could have taken Matthew Kachuk, and based on Ulevi's slower development, players, fans might say they'd rather have him. Take a Kachuk. If all those guys are. Taken.
In all likelihood.
Yeah.
Take the best player available. There was another question here about who the Canucks should draft. I believe it was from Josh Gould. Who I'm kind of over off the board picks. Just take the best possible player available.
Right.
It's one of those things. If you're talking about that 4th overall slot though with Kachuk, I think it could be very similar to what we've seen with the year they could have taken Kachuk and took Ulevi instead.
Oh.
Defensemen take longer to develop, and I'm not saying that was the right decision necessarily, but it could be another situation where there's some very good defensemen right after Kachuk, and they theoretically could be another Sergachev type of guy in there, and you need defensemen more, and they're theoretically more valuable, and you've got some good forwards in the system. I think the Canucks probably do take a swing at one of those defensemen, and then they're going to get crapped on for the next 5 years, because even if he does make the jump to the NHL, oftentimes look at like Hedman in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years before he really established himself after being taken first overall. So I'd say even with Ulevi, still be cautiously optimistic that, you know what, you need some defensemen in the system, especially right now. And you do take the best player available. But there's a lot of people who aren't 100% super high on Tkachuk being, you know, as good as he is ranked at that point. It's easier to rank forwards better because it's easier for them to succeed at a younger age. It's an easier position to play relative.
Well, I pulled up a random year.
What year?
2005.
2005. Sid?
Yeah, Sid went first. But the players that went after the Canucks picked?
Yeah.
Antti Kopitar.
Oh.
Well, this is
Mark Stahl. I know, but I know it was. I know.
There was a lot of talk that people wanted Anze Kopitar over Luc Bourdon that year, and it's tough because Luc Bourdon might be
not to say that name.
Luc Bourdon might be better than Anze Kopitar.
We don't know, right?
Yeah.
And we can't. But these are the names that went after wherever the Canucks selected. Like they could have picked whoever, because before the Canucks picked, in sixth, Columbus took Gilbert Brûlé. But again, we got Antti Kopitar, Mark Stahl went, Martin Hansel. You've got Tuukka Rask. Yeah, TJ Oshie. Like, all these names came after.
I did
the
pull up.
first round.
Yeah, Corey Perry went after Ryan Kessler, I believe, that year.
That was 03.
Stastny was that year.
Oh,
and it's
wow.
like Kessler.
Second round.
Yeah, Kessler was a good pick, but Corey Perry might have been I think a lot of people would agree Corey Perry's better. And he's also a shit disturber. So, I mean, it's a similar type of role that could have been secondary to the Sedins and might have been what they needed against Boston.
Oh, my God. That would have been perfect.
So, that's the thing. If you're talking 20 years, it's very easy to go, oh, well, Jake still might turn out to be a decent player. Where you're like, hey, even if he's not as good as the other ones, that's not as big a drop-off. You could go back 20 years and you'll find some that you're like, oh, my gosh, how did we not get... That's how the NHL draft works.
Yep.
The last question I'll ask is from Mike Shallon. Unlikely, but perhaps worth wasting a few minutes of imagination on. What if Henrik wanted to retire and Daniel wanted to play one more year?
I've heard a lot of people throw this out as a fun what if.
If I was, you know what, I would. If Daniel's going to retire, you're going to have one, or Henrik's going to retire. You have 1 year where you're by yourself.
I demand a trade to somewhere good.
Yeah, go to Tampa, win a Stanley Cup. I mean, if the twin thing is not going to be,
that's exactly it. If we're not going to tie our careers together and we're not going to win the same championships, I'm going to go win one.
Yeah, I would if I was Daniel Steen.
But what we're seeing now is like some people value
Get the hell out.
Loyalty to organizations, and that's such a rare thing,
of course,
in the NHL. Like when you really think about how they've stuck it out this long with one team, especially when you start decreasing in your productivity, the fact that they'd stick it out and want to stick it out says a lot about just like they're dedicated to the city. And I know there's questionable.
Well, we're not questioning their loyalty.
No.
It's 2018.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying some people question like they should want to win. It shouldn't be about loyalty.
That's me.
And I understand that. And there's different types of players. They're type of guys that like love the city and the community, I'm guessing, and the organization.
You know what? There's so many players out there who probably would have loved to spend their entire careers in one city.
Of course. But I mean, if you're spending like I know Daniel Alverton is there's such a negative spin on his career, but like because he went to Detroit. But like if one of these Sedins went to a cup contender, had a good final season, had good last kick in the can, nobody's going to fault him for that.
No, but
the Ray Bork?
Yeah.
Some people value certain things more than other people, and then
no, but I mean,
we're talking about the three people right here.
Yeah, like Ray Bork probably would have wanted to win that Stanley Cup in Boston.
Yeah, of course.
That would have been the icing on his cake, but
it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't happen.
It doesn't make you look down on the person if they leave and play somewhere else. But at the same time, I can see why players would want to just at this point in their careers just be like, you know what, I love where I've been, and that was worth something to me.
Yeah.
And if Daniel came back, it would be interesting if they slapped the C on him because he's been playing second fiddle for so long.
He's like, nah, just keep the A. I'm loyal to that too.
I'm loyal to the assistant captaincy.
Yeah, no, that would be, he's, Hank, we're going to retire. Hey, Jim, pass me that contract. Yeah.
Oh, whoopsie! The pen. I thought this was an autograph. Whoopsie!
Bo, Brock, and Daniel all of a sudden, lead the league in scoring.
They're like, their numbers don't get retired together. They don't get to go into the Hall of Fame together.
Daniel becomes a bad boy in his last year. He's wearing sunglasses while he plays. He's looking all tough. He's picking fights.
Hey, Daniel's a lowlife. Remember
That's true.
talked about Denis Potvin earlier. Labeled him a lowlife. Once a lowlife, always a lowlife.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this week's podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksOnNetCa. And again, if you want to support the show monetarily, head over to patreon.com/PucksOnNet. Pledge a couple of bucks. This is definitely the part where I just talk to myself. Once you said that at the start of the show, and and you guys are just like looking down or looking at your phones or having a drink.
A cigarette.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it's been a long hour and 6 minutes. I need this. I've been waiting for this. Patreon.com. We're going to have some bonus stuff real soon for you. We also had our Mighty Ducks commentary. We'll do 5 minutes for paying after this. And if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend a couple of bucks, which is perfectly fine, just tell a friend. Keep listening. Rate and review the show on iTunes. Oh, hell yeah. That is a squib. That's Kyle Seeger. That's going to tie the game. You can rate the show on iTunes. You can leave a comment and a positive 5-star rating and review. Really helps us out to defeat that awful Steve Jobs algorithm. And we're still talking about evils of the internet. Go to Zuckerberg's page, like our Facebook page. I can't confirm.
Before it's obsolete.
Yeah, before we all delete Facebook, go like the Pucks on Net Facebook page and go like the Instagram page. I posted a video there from how to fake draft knowledge, which I kind of really enjoyed. And other than that, just enjoy your Easter long weekend, and the playoffs are almost here, so that's fantastic.